Question 30. The banks have made record profits, have received massive handouts from government and are enjoying the lowest rates of interest ever from the Bank of England. The banks are now increasing interest rates to customers to record levels, with rates on credit cards up to 20% and more. It is an outrage. Mortgage lending is now mainly made available to the wealthy, who are becoming richer still. The Global Fund mission represents a microcosm of change for the better that is all-encompassing. The Global Fund's policy and strategy on banking will change the lives of billions around the world for all time and release them from their present slavery to the banks. 2% on all mortgages and loans for the life of the loan unconditionally. The said 2% interest rate will apply worldwide. The provision of a mortgage for the purchase of their own private dwelling at a price within their means will be available to any person or family regardless of their credit history. The said 2% interest rate would apply to all business loans, personal loans and credit cards as well. Do you blame the Labor government for not only turning a blind eye to the ruthlessness and greed of the banks, but who are actually feeding and condoning it? The answer to that was an absolute yes, with minus 10 points to the Labor Party. Question 31. The Conservatives have announced a policy for a new tax on banks which they will implement if they should win the election. Do you agree with a highly selective and discriminatory policy on taxation which represents a blatant grab for the British Treasurer that will not change the policy and attitude of banks, who will pass on this impost in even higher interest rates and charges to you? The answer to that was no, with 10 minus points to the Conservatives. This announcement by David Cameron needs further analysis and qualification. Firstly, it is a knee-jerk response. It is an opportunistic vote-getting ploy, and it is almost certainly illegal. You cannot have one rate of tax for one set of corporations and a different tax rate for all of the others. This is a dangerous precedent. The next thing, we will have a special tax rate for oil companies, or a special tax rate for doctors and lawyers if it is considered that they are gouging society. Where will it end? And the banks will only use it as an excuse to pass on even higher interest rates and charges to you, the customer. What this announcement fails to address is the real issue that people are concerned about regarding banks: the availability of credit and the cost of credit. In addition, what this announcement has served to highlight and demonstrate is a much more serious matter for the British people. A core issue that goes to the very heart of this election. It highlights a level of incompetence, a lack of experience, a limited level of academic and intellectual ability, a level of ineptitude, a confirmation and warning to the British people of the qualifications, ability and readiness of the Conservative Party to take over the reins of power, the credentials necessary to take over the responsibility of government for the British people. Presently, the country and its people are going backwards in every department. For the British people, this is not a popularity contest. It's not about left, right, centrist, Republican, socialist, or whatever. It's about the stewardship and the proper management of the affairs of a great nation. It's about creating the prerequisite social and economic environment and circumstance in which the British people can prosper. The right policies for the long-term welfare and sustainability of a way of life with all things in balance that the British people have earned, deserve and are entitled to. And more importantly, it's about the faith and trust given by the British people to their political leaders and politicians who are the right people for the job, who are best able to deliver the performance and the capability necessary to excel. Question 32. The Voice of the World has shown how large multinational corporations such as the oil giants can manipulate at will the price of the commodities they deal in. By doing so, they can also have a direct effect upon their share price. This creates an environment which is totally open to abuse, where millions can be made in the short selling of shares. Is the Labor government completely negligent and culpable in not outlawing this iniquitous practice, where millions can be made by vested interests using dishonest tactics, false flags and innuendo to drive down the price of a stock to the detriment of the genuine investor and the interests of the nation as a whole? The answer to that was yes, with 10 minus points to the Labor Party. Question 33. Do you believe the practice of the short selling of shares will be outlawed by the Conservatives if they were to win this election? The answer there was no, with 10 minus points against the Conservatives. Question 34. Do you believe the practice of the short selling of shares will be outlawed by the Liberal Democrats if they were to win the election? The answer there was an unconditional yes, with 10 plus points for the Liberal Democrats. Question 35. Do you believe it is only right that people who have been displaced from their own countries by the foreign policy of the UK and the US governments and being left with no option but to seek refuge and asylum in the UK should work and pay taxes like everyone else and support themselves without being a drain on the state? Has the Labor government enabled these people to legitimise their status so that they can become productive members of society? Again, here the answer was no, with 10 minus points against Labor. Question 36. Do you believe the Conservatives will legitimise the status of those people referred to above if they were to win this election? Again, the answer is no, with 10 minus points against the Conservatives. Question 37. Do you believe the Liberal Democrats will legitimise the status of those people referred to above if they were to win this election? Here people answered yes, with 10 plus points for the Liberal Democrats. Question 38. As well as fuel, the cost of food in Britain has escalated out of all proportion in the last 18 months. Do you believe the Labor government could have done more to contain this cost spiral? Here the answer was yes, with 10 minus points against Labor. Question 39. Unemployment is at record levels. Do you believe the Labor government is responsible, and could they have done more to safeguard jobs with the correct economic strategy and prevent the dismantling of manufacturing and industry in Britain to be hived off to the Asia Pacific? Here the answer was yes, with 10 minus points against Labor. Question 40. The Labor Party as well as the Conservatives have announced that there will be public spending cuts in addition to increases in taxes if either of them were to win this election. This is the final last straw for the people of Britain, already devastated by the credit crunch, loss of jobs, spiralling increases in public transport charges, food prices, council tax, and breakdowns in their marriages and relationships, and its profound detrimental effects on the children of Britain. Do you believe these measures to be reprehensible, unforgivable, and unconscionable in the face of their failure to curb and curtail the astronomical amount of waste and abuse of the public purse at all levels of government? The answer here was an absolute yes, with 10 minus points against Labor and 10 minus points against the Conservatives.